Hey, hello guys. So today I'll try to tell you that how can you actually create a table in a BigQuery. So there are multiple ways. You can manually create the table and you can use a JSON format to create the table. But most of the time what happens is if the table size is very big, like it has like 100 200 columns, it becomes really difficult to kind of manually put all the fields, names, and create a table manually. The alternate way is to use a JSON file format. But again, it becomes a task when you try to normally what you get as a data input is table column names and things, and converting them into JSON format becomes a task. So now what I'm trying to show you here is how you can do all these things together. So let's go one by one. Let's try to create a table first manually, and then we'll try to use the JSON format for that. So let me just go back to my Google console. I'll try. So now I'm trying to open my Google console. Okay, so I already have a project in here, but let's see. So I can just go to Bigquery, choose, okay, these are by default, there's a project selected that I created long back. So let's try and create a table, create a data set within this project. There's already a data set, so we can use the existing data set. So let's try and create a table. So there are two ways, as I said earlier. So we can create the table manually. Choose empty table here, put the table name. Let me just put person, and let's say manual. And then we can just add all the fields in here that we need. So I have a sample table in here. So this is the table that I want to create. It is having these 5 columns with name, age. Then this is the description of the column. This is the type of data that it holds, and this is the mode, whether it is nullable or a required field. So so let's try and create them. So you can just put name. It is type of string, it is nullable. Then let's say age is integer. Then let's try to put name, age, and what do we have? Date of birth, which is going to be a date. And then we have anniversary date. Let's say anniversary. So pardon my spelling mistakes, I'm not going to focus on that. Date, nullable. And then we try to create one more field, which is income. So let's put income, which is going to be a float field. That's all. I think it's that easy to create table manually in using BigQuery. So just create table, and you see this table is here. Of course, it will not have any data because we just created the table. And if you scroll down, you will see the structure of the table that we have created. So we have name, age, date of birth, anniversary, income with these data types, and there is no description, so I did not add any description as such. Okay, now let's try and create the table. Look, imagine like this is a very easy method to create a table. Now imagine if you have hundreds of records, 200s of records, then creating all 200s of columns, then creating all those columns is going to be a pain, right? So it is better that we convert this format into a JSON and then load it and create a schema directly as is. Okay, now another task is how do you convert that into a JSON format. For this I have already written a code, so I'll just walk you through that code, but first let me show you how easy it is. So the code, what it does is just click on this button, it converts everything into JSON, copies into your clipboard. Then what you need to do is go back to this data set, create table, open in here you just name the table like person underscore, let's say JSON, right? Another table that I'm creating with this name. Instead of adding field here, I'll just click edit as text, and I'm going to paste it. So where it got copied using that function in Excel. So this is the form. Then you just need to go and create table, and it's that easy. So now if you open it, you're going to see a JSON table already created with all the fields, column, and the description. So it is that Easy. Now let me go back. Most of the time when you have the data, you have the table and the field names in this format, not in the JSON format. Like if you want to create a new table, you do not get the data in the JSON format. You need to so what I have done is I have just created a Excel VBA macro. You can use any language for that matter. Excel VBA macro becomes quite easy because most of the time we use you structure the data in the Excel format, but it's completely up to you which language you want to use. I'll just take you through the code which converts this particular information into a JSON format. This is the JSON format that my code has created. As you see, there is some selection already applied, and this is the selection that the code itself does. So let me just directly jump into the code and I'll explain you what the code does. So let me open the code screen. So there is a module already in here. So okay, this is the code that I was talking about. So what I have done before that code, in that Excel file, I just renamed the sheets. So you see the sheet 1 is basically schema is the name of the sheet, and JSON is the name of the other sheet. What I have done, I have found the last row. I calculated the last row of my schema. Schema is this one basically. Let me just rename it so that you can easily understand that. Schema is the name of the sheet. So what I have done is from schema I found what is the last row, so that I don't limit myself that if they are more field, like say field number F with some description or something. Let's say F1, which contains some information which is of integer, for example, and it is nullable. In that, okay, now if I run it again, so it is going to give me a JSON code which is going to have another field called F1. So to make this thing happen, I had to calculate the last row of wherever my field information is there. Then I clear everything that is already there in the JSON file. In here on the JSON tab, I clear everything. Then I initiate a counter, rcount, which is nothing but a simple counter. Then I loop through how many records we have, how many rows. So I loop through from row number 2 to end, because row number 1 is the name or the title. From row number 2 to the last row, I loop through all of them. What I do in here, I initiate the JSON conversion. So the very first rcount value is 1. So this is how the JSON start. This is how the first record starts. And then if you see, I'm looping through 1 to 4 again within this parent loop. So why 1 to 4? If you see, I'm browsing through columns, column number 1, column number 2, column number 3, and column number 4. So whenever the J value is 1, that means we are going through column number 1. Instead of using multiple if else, I use a select case statement in here. So in the select case, what I did is if it is J value is 3, that means I'm talking about column number 3. I update the third column, and I take the value from E from the column number 1 from the schema. Okay, orientation is not an issue. You can change the orientation whichever way you like. So name is coming from schema sheet 1. Description is coming from schema sheet column 2. Type is coming from schema sheet column 3. Mode is coming from schema sheet column 4. And then after every single column execution, I increase the count by 1. Why I increase the row count? Row count is basically the count of these rows, starting from here and then keeps on going down. So whenever I create one particular entry, then I have to go to the next line, and hence I sort of increasing the row count by 1 whenever J changes the value. I mean, we move from one column to another column. Then when the J loop is done, that means one record has been converted into JSON format. Then what I do, I close this, close the record, and I check if it is the last row. If it is the last row, then I don't add a comma. If it is not the last row, then I keep on adding the comma. So what it's basically doing, it is checking if this bracket closing is the last record or not. In the end, if you see, in the last record, it is not adding that comma. Otherwise, it is adding a comma onto the curly bracket closure. And that's how this is how it is very simple. Now in the end, what I'm doing is I'm just copying whatever the value is in there on the JSON file on the clipboard, so that I don't have to change the sheet and select and copy again. So this is what it does. So if you go in